like to invite Toby Tambiraja and Alan Butterfield to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion made by Mrs. Walker, second by Mr. Haney. All of those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Next, for recognition, I'll turn it over to Mr. Dyckman.
Thank you, Mrs. Cope. The Francis Howell Central Wind Ensemble has been selected by the Missouri Music Educators Association to perform at the annual state conference later this month, next week, in fact. This is one of the highest honors the Missouri high school band program can receive, similar to winning a state title in a team sport. Out of nearly 100 audition tapes, the Wind Ensemble was selected as one of only 5 high school concert bands to be represented at the conference. Guys, would you come on up? That a concert ensemble from Francis Howell Central has been selected to perform, and the first high school concert band from the district selected since 1975. Francis Howell Central's jazz ensemble also performed at the conference in 2016, making Central part of a small elite group that's recently had different instrumental ensembles from the same school perform. So congratulations to Nathan Griffin, Andy Messerly, and the Francis Howell Central Wind Ensemble.
Someone take pictures, please up.
Back row, guys. Turn to the side of the leg.
Line up alphabetically by height.
May have you come over here and find us. And then I need you to scoot in just a little bit. You behind you. You right there. Scoot over that way. So you can see us. There you go. One more.
Are there any proud parents or principals in the audience that would like to take
You guys rock.
Congratulations. local firefighters dedicate their lives to protecting our community, our homes, and our students here in Francis Howell. As part of the nonprofit program Operation Warm, the Cottleville Firefighters Outreach and Central County Fire and Rescue Outreach delivered brand new coats to over 350 Francis Howell students to make sure that they're warm this winter. The Firefighters Outreach conducts a variety of fundraising efforts throughout the year to help purchase these coats. Can I have you guys come up? Dave, Garrett, Deanna. Francis Howell teachers and counselors identified the students in need and invited them to pick out a coat and their size. At the district level, it's all coordinated by our own Deanna Cruz. Smiles were shared as each student had a chance to try on a different option and then officially mark their chosen coat with their name. The looks on their faces is priceless. So a great big Howell thank you to Cottleville Firefighters Outreach, Central County Fire and Rescue, and Deanna for helping our kiddos. And now here to introduce our student board representative for January is Francis Howell Central Principal, Dr. Sonny Arnell.
Good evening. It is my honor and privilege as the principal of Howell Central to introduce our board rep. And I would like to introduce Mr. Alan Butterfield. Before I go any further, I would like his mother and father, Amy and Ken, to stand up. Let's give them a big round of applause. You guys have done a great job being terrific parents. Alan's a great young man. Your daughter, Paige, is a wonderful young woman. You guys have done a great job being supportive parents, being there, pushing them, loving them. Thank you so much. I'd like to have more kids. Thanks so much. Alan is a young man that really kind of warms your heart when you have students like him. He gets high school. He gets his responsibility to the community that he serves, that he's part of. He really honors and pushes himself academically. He's taken a lot of almost every one of our honors classes or AP classes. He's taken a few, AP Government, AP Art History, AP Spanish. Really understands the value of earning some college credit in high school and being the best person he can be academically. But he goes beyond that. He's started and been part of many, many clubs in our building. He is part of NHS, Pep Club, Central Outreach, our Student Athletic Leadership Council, and our Yale leaders for our athletic events. Through Pep Club, he MCs a lot of our Pep assemblies, which are a wonderful way for our student voice to be heard and really connect our kids to our schools, celebrate the current happenings in our building, and really does a nice job of representing his classmates in doing so. He is, as a Yale leader, if you've ever been to one of our games, sometimes you hear things in athletic events that you think, why would they say that? They're there to support athletic events or activities. And our Yale leaders help our students understand that and take pride in it. We've won the last 5 years in a row the voting of the basketball officials for boys and girls basketball for the whole St. Charles County for the best sportsmanship. And it's because of our Yale leaders and young men like Alan leading that out and setting the tone for how we're going to support and create an environment and a culture that is there to support our athletes and really develop a wonderful school climate. So I love that, to have awesome Yale leaders. Then he's won some really neat awards. Our Silver Shield Award is our best award that a teacher picks for a student making an impact on them. He's won that. He also is, give us a good smile. was our homecoming king this year. That's a wonderful thing. You can't beat that. We have about 62 clubs and activities kids can be part of at school. Alan saw a hole and started a Bible study group, a Bible study club that meets at 6:30 on Tuesday mornings. More and more kids are getting up that early to come to school to be part of that activity, to be attached to school and have some fellowship around a common cause. As an athlete, he's participated in cross country, he's participated in baseball, and he's participated in soccer. The last 2 years, he's earned all conference academics for soccer and for baseball, and last year he was second team all conference athletically for baseball. So just really kind of doing the whole thing in the classroom and on the athletic fields. Also in the community, he's part of Breakdown at St. Louis, which goes into area high schools. Today he was at St. Clair. They go in and make presentations to the whole school, and they're a group of high school students from the St. Charles County area, St. Louis area, and empower students to make good choices and live an enriched life. Really coming from peers, that really is powerful. They'll be performing and presenting to our school on April 21st. I'm really excited about that, having Breakdown SDL and Alan to do that on April 21st. Does all that while he works. Has kept several jobs. This next fall, he plans on going to Missouri State to become a teacher and a baseball coach. You look great in blue and silver, don't forget that. Come back. Really, I can't wait to see what he does with the rest of his life, and I'm fortunate to have students like him walk our halls and set the tone on how we act, how we behave, how we treat each other, and he's a wonderful model for that. So please welcome Mr. Alan Butterfield.
Awesome day to be a Spartan.
It is. It is. We got the wind ensemble. We got in a minute, you're going to do a great presentation from Kat, one of our students. Cincinnati.
One more?
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us this evening. We would be happy to have you participate in our conversations tonight. If you have any questions, certainly push your button, and we'll be happy to hear from you. You get to participate fully in our meeting, except for you don't get to vote. Okay? Mr. Hayne is going to get you set up and help you walk through the meeting. All right. Thanks for being with us this evening. All right. Next on our agenda this evening is patron comments. Okay, thank you. FHEA.
Good evening, Dr. Hendricks-Harris, President Cope, Executive Cabinet, and the Board of Education. I wanted to let you know that the ESC has approached FHEA about becoming a part of the union. We began gathering signatures in October, and now we have 19 signatures. We needed to gather 8 to bring this to the State Board of Mediation. With 19 out of 25, we are asking the board for voluntary recognition, as the board did with FHEA many years ago. Otherwise, we'll have to bring this to the State Board of Mediation, and we will have to waste time, energy, and money to make the ESCs a part of FHEA. We thank you for your consideration in this matter. Thanks.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. Board, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Peaceva.
Board of Education, Dr. Hendricks Harris, members of the cabinet, and community members. FEASP is disappointed that very important decisions have been made without our involvement. The new superintendent was announced tonight, yet FEASPA was not invited to sit on any committee for interviews. A summer school proposal has input from administrators, cabinet, but not FEASPA. And finally, the committee for naming of the new building also did not include FEASPA. Our closure document states FEASPA will be invited to participate in district-level committees as well as participate in the interview process for positions that have a direct relationship to our employee group. For a district that says they are a collaborative district, leaving FEASPA support staff out of important decisions doesn't seem to be collaborative. The support staff of the district would like to be thought of as important, valuable contributors to make sure this district continues to be one of the very best. If we're not at the table, we can't help. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Board, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Lane, seconded by Mrs. Walker. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Next on our agenda is our academic high target area, and this evening we are going to have a presentation from CAPS. Dr. Howell.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this presentation over to John Omorashami, who is here from CAPS. And he's going to get up and give us an update on the things with CAPS. Lots of exciting things going on there. So I'm going to turn it over to John.
Thank you. Thank you for having us tonight. It's a pleasure to be part of the St. Charles County CAPS program. So CAPS stands for Center for Advanced Professional Studies. It's really a half-day program that fully immerses students, juniors and seniors in high school, into a professional environment where they learn professional skills. They also learn about networking. They learn about what it takes to be successful in the field that they choose. It's a national program. There's 56 programs nationwide, actually in about 16 different states. If you visit our website, which is sccaps.org, we do have some great examples of projects that students have completed. Just to give you some ideas, this past fall, we had our students complete the website for Rack House, which is a restaurant here in Colorado, and then also completed the website for the Tompkins restaurant, which is on Main Street. So our students are actually working on projects that's meaningful in the community. Our goal, our mission is really to empower students to discover their mission. We always say it's not about finding their major in college, but actually discovering what their mission is. And we accomplish this through our vision statement, which you can see there. The core values of CAPS involves professional-based learning, responsiveness, self-discovery and exploration, professional skills development, and then having an entrepreneurial mindset. We have 3 different programs. One is global business and entrepreneurship. They actually meet at Scholar Technology and then sometimes at the EDC on Mid-Rivers. The healthcare, we do have BJC healthcare system and then the SSM healthcare. They do a lot of rotations within the hospital systems in St. Charles County. The technology solutions, which I'm the instructor of, we actually meet at our charter Spectrum in our city. We have 2 sessions, AM and PM, so it's a half-day program, about 2.5 hours a day. Currently, from the Francis Howell School District, we have about 41 students in the program. 10 of them in the global business, 22 in the healthcare, and then in the technology solutions, we have 9 students. So some of the benefits from the CAPS program, again, helping students find their mission and not just their major. We spend a lot of time on helping them develop their professional skills. In fact, we had about 30 students, alumni of the program, come back last Friday, And we asked them, what were some of the benefits that's carried over to your college? And a lot of them spoke about being able to network, the professional skills such as interviewing skills, and then also being able to manage their time properly in college. So they found a lot of value in that. They also get an opportunity to work alongside business professionals in the workplace settings. They also get to work on real projects, authentic learning opportunities for students. They get to solve real work problems and then explore high skill and high demand areas. So we have Kobe Thabraja here, which actually he will speak more to the benefits of the program and what is gained out of it.
Awesome. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kobe Timbaraja. I'm a senior here at Francis Howell Central High School and currently enrolled in the St. Charles County CAPS program, Technology Solutions strand. I'm looking forward to studying the field of IT and specializing in cybersecurity. As you know, CAPS, the Center for Advanced Professional Studies program, immerses students into professional environments where curriculum is developed by industry professionals, ensuring what we learn in the classroom is relevant to the workforce. Something that I've learned in CAPS that I really think is powerful is having great communication skills, such as communicating with my professor, Mr. O, or communicating with my business professionals, such as my client project with the O'Fallon Chamber of Commerce, or my internship. So currently I'm an intern at the St. Charles County Government Information Systems Department. There I learned how to look at large amounts of data using Microsoft Excel, and I also get to learn a little bit of GIS mapping. And some stuff I love about this internship is how everybody's super nice, everybody works well in teams, and not only that, but just the opportunity for only being 17 years old, having an internship at the government is something I couldn't do without CAPS, because CAPS we have all these connections that we don't have in like a high school development, just a high school in general. But an area that I think I've really grown in is public speaking. 1 year ago, I wouldn't be here right now. I hated public speaking. I didn't have the guts for it. But CAPS gets you out of your comfort zone. And I would have to give a shout out to Mr. O for putting in his 100% every day, making sure we can talk in front of large groups or keep a conversation with business professionals. Next year, I will be studying IT and specializing in cybersecurity at Mizzou. And that's all I really have. If I have any advice for students or parents that have kids going into high school or their junior, senior year, is that CAPS is a once in a lifetime opportunity that you will never get ever again to get really just professional experience using your professional skills in the workforce before going to college. Questions?
I should have just let him.
I have one question.
I feel like this is coming to me.
Yes. I see you working hard over there on your laptop. Do you think we will have school tomorrow?
You're welcome to join me.
Okay.
Also, since you have let everybody know that we were making a decision together tonight, if we're having school, you know that's going to get pinned on.
Please don't ruin my reputation.
Okay, I have a question about the CAPS program. Sure. So Kobe, it's for you. So it's a hard question. So you've talked about your amazing experience and how it's really beneficial for you. What would you change?
With the St. Charles County CAPS program, if I had to change one thing, gosh, that's a really hard question. Honestly, I just wish we advertised it a little bit more, because sometimes just throughout the school day, a lot of kids aren't really focused when we do these presentations, and I feel like we should get more time during the school day to present a little bit more, maybe have like larger crowds. Usually we just do like history classes, come down to the auditorium, and then we talk about it for like a good 5 minutes, we show a video. So just more advertising for the St. Charles County CAPS program. It's a really good program. I really wish more people knew about this program, because it's just not advertised enough.
Okay.
I think we should.
I think that's a great answer. Mr. O,
Yes.
I got the opportunity to meet you when we kicked off the program.
I know.
So, yeah, thank you for being a part of this program since the onset and helping it grow and develop like it has. So
My
thank you
pleasure.
so much. Board, any other questions, comments? All right, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Really
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
it. All right, next on our agenda, we have our summer school proposal. Dr. Coben.
All right, I am going to turn this over to Dr. Garland and Dr. Lammers, who have spent time getting this proposal ready for you.
Thank you. I am up here with Dr. Chris Godwin. I'll start things off. First of all, thank you, Board of Education, for giving us an opportunity to present a very robust summer school offer to our students. Laura, one question. Do you happen to have the slides?
This is what I was.
We could just go.
Let's go, I'll find it.
We can just stop.
Which would you prefer?
If you can start, that'd be great.
Sure.
Catch up
Yeah,
with you right
great.
here.
So we are proud to announce that we are proposing to expand greatly expand the summer school offerings for this year. This year we're offering 24 different programs at from K-12. Last year, the difference from last year to this year is we are adding 10 programs from last year into this year. Some at the elementary level, some at the middle level, some at the high school level. Here we go. Good test of my memory. I'm too reliant upon the slides in the classroom. We can go ahead to the next one. Yeah. So we're offering 24 programs this year. Everything that you see up there that has an asterisk is a new program for this year. So we are greatly expanding our offerings this year. The overall goal is to reach more students, to get more students involved. And we also, you're going to see, we have a unique opportunity this year with the longer summer to expand our offerings into June or into July, longer into July, to be able to reach as many kids as we possibly can. So the first changes that we're going to talk about are at the elementary level. This is Dr. Brown.
All right. So our action teams worked really, really hard, and we're really excited to kind of go through what some of those changes are. So as you know, our elementary summer success program is remedial. So one of the first things we wanted to talk about was how can we bring some enrichment opportunities into the remedial program. So we, knowing that our kids need more physical activity, there's been a lot of talk and research around that. Our kids are going to have PE every day during their summer program, the elementary summer success program. We're also adding, they currently had PE, art, and music. And so with them having PE every day, it'll be a shortened PE, probably 25 or 30 minutes. We don't have the master schedule worked out exactly just yet. But they will still have PE every day. They'll have art and music, and we're also adding a STEM specials so that they'll have that enrichment as well. The other idea that we had from the action team was, is there a way that we can make those specials classes kind of theme-based so that it's not just the same things that they're doing during the regular school year? So for instance, maybe they might do a week of PE every day and a week of art, and maybe the focus is pottery. Or maybe the focus is art with recyclables. Maybe the focus in PE is yoga. Maybe the focus in STEM is just engineering for the week or just robotics for the week. That way they get kind of a nice deep dive into some of those enrichment type activities. We also wanted to build in some fun. We want to make sure they get the support they need because we know that it's a successful program for our elementary students, but we also wanted to kind of take the school out of school a little bit. So we're proposing that we add a school-wide field trip for those kiddos in the summer success program. As far as additions, we are adding some summer camps. Traditionally, we had STEAM camp, and it's super popular. As you all know, we had a wait list of over 400 or 500 kids every summer. So after having met with STEAM teachers and our action team and just kind of collaborating with a lot of different people, the decision, or what we're proposing, is to change STEAM camp to STEM camp, so it has more of a STEM focus. but then we're adding an art camp that will have a title that's to be determined. We're working with the content lead, Michelle Ridlin, on what that curriculum might look like, and then we'll come up with a catchy, fun title to kind of go along with that. We also are wanting to offer a team sports camp to incorporate some additional activity for our kids, but also to incorporate some skills such as sportsmanship, playing together, just those things that we know that are really, really important. And then pulling out robotics and having just a robotics camp. What some of our STEAM camp leaders have talked to us about is the kids that were in STEAM, there were definitely a group of kids that liked all of STEAM, but there was definitely a large pocket of kids that were really just interested in the robotics. And so they felt like that was a good thing to pull out to separate, because they felt like it was a good opportunity to focus on just the robotics and to build in some team challenges and different competitions for that robotics. In order to increase the amount of kids that can participate, we are offering the camps as half-day camps. Our STEAM before was a full-day camp, so we're proposing that we're going to be offering all of the camps as AM sessions and PM sessions, so that theoretically we can see twice as many kids. At least it will be offered so that we can see twice as many kids. And the hour, it'll actually be about 45 minutes in between camps. We will offer for families a lunch and a recess that's supervised so that those families don't have to worry about a midday pickup. But we did have a lot of families voice to our summer principals last year that it would be nice if there were half-day opportunities. So that's something that we thought would be worth a try this year. But it'll also give our kids an opportunity that if they want to participate in more than one camp, that they'll be able to do that as well. And then finally, another way to increase the amount of kids that we're reaching, STEM camp was only offered to incoming 3rd through 6th graders last year. And this year we're offering it to incoming 1st graders through 6th grade. So we're going to be adding 2 grade levels of kids that will have the opportunity to participate in that enrichment.
At the middle school level, one of the big changes that we're proposing, over the last 2 years, we've expanded the program from a 4-week program to a 6-week program on the summer success side. And we have an opportunity with a longer summer this year. Historically, students who are doing the summer success portion never had an opportunity to have access to the fun enrichment camps like the biomed and the app camp and things of that nature. So what we're proposing is to run 2 4-week summer success programs, one in June, one in July. So some students who really need that extra remediation help can do the 4-week and the 4-week and really get 8 weeks, 2 additional weeks of help with math and reading. Or they could do a 4-week summer success, and then in the other month do the app camp, do the STEM camp, do the biomed, and some of the other camps that we're proposing adding in that. So the goal is to extend that enrichment, that enhanced enrichment opportunity to some students who, over the past several years, they haven't really had access to that before. So that's what we're proposing, is basically running the same thing twice in June and July, understanding that we have a little golden opportunity here this summer with a longer summer. We might not be able to duplicate that in future summers, but let's give it a shot this year and try to reach as many kids as we can. And then on the enrichment camp side, I talked about how we're going to offer them twice. We're proposing adding 3 different camps this summer. First one, I think Dr. Bellin wants to lead this one out. A Shark Tank entrepreneurship camp. So the goal is to strategically place this after app camp. So if we have students who develop a really cool app during app camp, then they can come into the Shark Tank camp, where they'll have a week to kind of turn that into a little bit of a business model, or work on an invention idea and turn it into a business model. And we hope to recruit some people from the community, perhaps some folks in the business sector, to serve on a panel on that last day, where kids will present their ideas to them and maybe even get a little bit of seed money to go try to hang out a shingle and make something happen out of this. So we want to model it after the show. There are some schools around the country that we've reached out to who have been doing this for a few years. And so we're going to go ahead and take some ideas from them and have that inform our practice.
The other neat thing, there is a program out there called Safe Center, and we've reached out to them. So for the first week of June, offer a babysitting certification camp where students would, and the curriculum is designed for kids in grades 6 through 8. They would learn basic child development, safety, online safety, how to be home alone safe, first aid, CPR. And if they do that during that first week of summer, then they can spend the whole rest of their summer raising our babysitting rates. Sorry, everybody. But at least the hope is our kids will be safer and they'll learn some entrepreneurial skills there and some life skills that they can take with them. Our hope is that this might make our community safer for some of our young kiddos. And then to reach another group that often is not reached during the summer, we're proposing adding a theater camp that would actually be housed on the high school site. So this year's high school site is North High. And we hope to get a theater teacher and some students, some theater students who would help students over the course of 15 weeks put together a production. I'm sorry, yeah, 3 weeks, sorry. Put together a production. Yeah, that's a lot to do. You know, even building a little set, learning some lines, and putting on a production. So that's what we're proposing adding in for the middle school level. We can go to the next one. At the high school level, what we're proposing adding is we want to add. We have an opportunity to begin the program on Wednesday this year to have a little bit of a soft landing for the people who are putting the program together. So they have that Monday and Tuesday to put things together and get the building ready, and then starting it on Wednesday, and still being able to conclude the credit recovery and credit advancement portion in June. We are going to allow students who are participating in the early college program, the early college partnership with St. Charles Community College, to be able to take a couple of classes over the summer as part of the early college offerings. So we would have that, and as long as the course has a motor number, it would come back onto the high school transcript. And then they're going to do something with the Max Scholars programs this summer. Their summer academy is going to be a collaborative effort between the 3 buildings. We're this close to getting a commitment from UMSL that they might host it for us, so that might be really cool. Still working on that. Dave Stouffer's doing amazing work trying to get that ready over at Central. And then adding in 2 camps at the high school level. Based on some districts, some feedback we got from some other districts that have expanded offerings, it's kind of hard to get high school students committed to some of the camps during the summer because they want credit or they want to have a job, make some money. So what we're looking at is things that are going to directly impact what they're going to do after high school. So having a college exploration academy where students will come in, meet some college recruiters, get some guidance from our Mentors for College partnership on how to navigate the college search and finance program or process, and then take a couple of bus trips, go see some college campuses. And then a military career exploration for our students who, they already have a pretty good idea that they want to go into they're thinking about the military, but maybe they're not sure what branch. We have several staff members who have military experience. I don't think we'll have any trouble finding somebody who wants to lead a camp with students who are interested in this. So bringing in some recruiters to say, here's what it's really like when you're in the Air Force, the Marines, the Army, the Navy, National Guard, Coast Guard, and then taking some field trips to Fort Leonard Wood, Jefferson Barracks, Scott Air Force Base, and other things like that. So our hope is to offer those after the credit recovery and credit advancement is over. Do those in June. So our kids that are participating in the classes during June, they would have this available to them in July so that they don't miss out on that as well. That's what we're proposing on the high school side. We can talk a little bit about finance. These are estimates at this point. So because we're adding in programs, we can look at history on some of our other programs when we're projecting out ADA. With some of the new camps, we're ballparking on these, what we're seeing in some other districts, what we think might be the number of students, and we're being pretty conservative on our estimates on it. So we're projecting revenue of about $1.6 million in ADA, and bumping up the transportation costs by a little bit, and thinking maybe there might be increases in gas, and we're adding in some field trips. But really, if everything goes to chalk, then we should come out $9,000 ahead. That's about what we projected last year, and we ended up doing far better than that. One of our goals is to offer this program, help as many kids as we can, and have it be at least revenue neutral. We've been able to do that every year. That is our proposal. Do you have any questions for either one of us?
Excellent. Board, any questions? Mr. Lane?
Chris, at the elementary level, I did not hear if a child can take 2 classes, like, I'm just saying, art in the morning, STEM in the afternoon, that type of thing?
Do you mean the camps?
Yes, the camps.
Yes, they will be able to take 2 camps.
Okay,
And we're gonna try to work out a schedule to where they can actually take all the camps that are being offered. So it's possible that they could fill 2 weeks worth of camps.
okay. And it's first come, first served type basis?
Depending on the enrollment, in your packet, you'll notice that we only have them scheduled for a couple weeks, and that's all based on enrollment and staffing. If we have the enrollment to add weeks and we have the staff to teach it, the plan is to add the weeks. Like our camps have operated in the past, it's been on a lottery system, and so we will continue to operate on a lottery system, knowing that we'll have to look at the lottery based on family, not based on necessarily individual kids, since we'll be offering multiple camps. We'll have to look at things like, did they register for both a morning and an afternoon camp? And if so, if they were picked for the morning camp, then we need to go ahead and give them the afternoon camp, vice versa, those kinds of things. We're already needing to kind of work through and think through what some of those kinks might be so that we can get ahead of that.
Can I just say something? First of all, I want to thank you both. I know we have submitted a proposal a little later than in the past, but the alignment to our new strategic plan is just so important going in. So this is a leverage area for us primarily because our summer programs are fully funded. And so you can see the connection to college, career, and life that they have presented, as well as our business and family partnership. So very excited about the new offerings, and I suspect the following summer will be even more tightly aligned to the strategic plan.
Excellent. So Alan, as a future educator, how does this sound to you?
I pressed the button, right? Oh, alright, bear with me, my voice is a little gone, but, it looks cool, like, I definitely, like, growing up, I thought about going in the military, so go figure, and then I would have, like, definitely loved to, like, have that, like, military camp just over the summer, just to go and just see, and have, like, a real experience with, like, real people in the military, that it's just you're getting a different outlook from them than you just like watching movies and wanting to go in the military. So I think that's like super cool. So I think it's really cool that you guys are doing this.
Can I ask Alan a question? So I know Alan. So Alan, in about 4 years, will you teach that team sports camp?
Maybe. We'll see.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Alan, what do you want to teach?
History or PE? Maybe.
I taught history, sorry. No celebration.
Right. Excellent presentation, really excited about the new offerings. I think they're right on target, and Dr. Hendricks and our set of language for the strategic plan is so important. So I think you really hit that spot, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda is the MSBA report.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of January. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at some legislative priorities as the 2020 regular session of the Missouri General Assembly gets underway this month. The State Board of Education has adopted several legislative priorities for the current session, including support for the expansion of early learning opportunities by allowing school districts to count 4- and 5-year-olds in their calculation of average daily attendance in the foundation formula. During a recent conference call, State Board of Education member Peter Hershen said it's critical Missouri improve access to early childhood education programs.
I think that there is nothing that will make a larger difference for the educational outcomes in our state that we can work on than a well-equipped early learning workforce, and that is to say professional educators, working in facilities, schools that are equipped for early learning. This is not speculation. The fact is, Missouri is well behind the rest of the nation.
The plan to allow school districts to count 4- and 5-year-olds as part of their state aid calculations is estimated to cost as much as $60 million a year. One of MSBA's legislative priorities is to provide adequate funding to all school districts to offer quality, voluntary pre-kindergarten programs. The State Board of Education also supports legislation that would raise the minimum teacher salary in Missouri from $25,000 a year to $32,000 a year. Many school districts are already above the $32,000 starting salary level, but officials with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education say there are currently about 2,300 teachers in the state earning less than $32,000. Missouri ranks near the bottom of all states for minimum teacher salaries, and Assistant Commissioner Paul Katnick told the state board during its conference call, Missouri's ranking might not improve that much even with an increase in the minimum salary.
My best guess as an answer is there's a fairly good chance, only because we're seeing a lot of states be very aggressive about it. The teacher shortage is not limited to the state of Missouri, and everyone feels like higher salaries is a great recruitment strategy, and the research says it probably is. So I think it's gonna always be a game of catch-up.
MSBA's resolution on teacher salaries states support for salary and benefit levels that enable school districts to attract and retain high-quality teachers. The State Board of Education is also calling for a joint legislative committee to study teacher compensation and strategies to move Missouri to the median of all states in average teacher compensation. Other MSBA priorities for the legislative session as adopted by the Board of Directors include support of legislation to ensure a safe educational environment for all children, support for legislation to strengthen mental health resources in schools, opposition to any legislation authorizing vouchers or voucher-like programs, and support for legislation that increases accountability and oversight of charter schools. 2020, of course, is an election year, and election years always have an impact on the work of the General Assembly. MSBA Associate Executive Director for Advocacy, Mike Reed, says legislators tend to pay close attention to their constituents' views in an election year.
In the past, when it's been 18 months from the election, they may be able to kind of act like a free cowboy. This one will hold them to be a little bit closer to what people want at home and become a little bit more aware of their constituencies' needs.
MSBA will keep you informed about legislative developments during the session through our weekly Legislative Voice newsletter, our daily updates on Twitter, through critical issue alerts, and through periodic webinars. And be sure to register for the MSBA Legislative Forum Public Schools Day at the Capitol, scheduled for February 10th in Jefferson City. You'll not only learn more about pending legislation at the event, you'll also have the opportunity to visit with your local legislators at the Capitol. You can register for that event through the MSBA website. School board members throughout the state will be honored for their work during School Board Recognition Week, February 9th through 15th, as declared by Governor Parson. It's a great opportunity for communities to honor local school board members to provide leadership to our local school districts throughout the state. Check the MSBA website for resources related to School Board Recognition Week. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
Alright, next on our agenda, we move into the fiscal responsibility area. Board, I will entertain a motion to approve the purchases over $7,500 as presented. Motion made by Mrs. Walker, seconded by Mrs. Lane. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Board, I'll entertain a motion to approve the December 2019 financial report as presented.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Lane, seconded by Mr. Lane. Mr. Supple, do you have any additions?
No, Mrs. Carter.
Board, any questions or concerns? All of those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Board, I'll entertain a motion to approve the preschool and vacation station tuition rates for fiscal year 21 as presented. Motion made by Mrs. Lang, seconded by Mrs. Walker. Board, we had a workshop on this. Is there any questions or concerns? All of those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Board, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agreement with Atlas Building Group for project management services from February 1st through June 30th, 2020, for an estimated cost of $35,850. Motion made by Mr. Haney, seconded by Mrs. Walker. Mr. Supple.
Thank you, Mrs. Carter. We are trying to make the best plans that we can, assuming a successful passage of Proposition S in April. There are some projects that we hope to start in the summer of 2020, and we want to make sure that we're prepared to do that. In order to do that, we need to begin working with architects and developing specifications, determining exactly what type of equipment needs to be ordered and so forth. And so Atlas Building Group will be assisting us in developing both a short-term and long-term schedule for the work that will take place. And we will focus our efforts particularly on projects that we can complete during the summer of 2020, but also those projects that are high in the priority list anyway, so that even if we don't have Proposition S funds to support some of the work, the planning that has been done will be something that would have had to happen anyway for projects that are absolutely critical. So we think this is a good proactive way for us to get a head start on the work so that we can really demonstrate that we're moving forward expeditiously as soon as we are successful in April.
Thank you, Mr. Supple. Board, any questions, comments, or concerns? All of those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. All right, next on our agenda is under strategic planning. We have, board, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2020-2021 staffing plan as presented. Motion made by Mr. Lane, seconded by Mrs. Lane. Mrs. Simpkins.
Thank you. The board will see on our memo that we've added a few changes to the staffing plan from our work session, so I just wanted to call your attention to those. While there are no changes to the overall FTE changes or revisions that we spoke about, I did want to call your attention to the fact that we've removed the 1.0 FTE at Francis Howell that the board graciously gave us to cover the Teacher of the Year absence. So Shelley Parks was released to do some of that work as the Teacher of the Year. We had a full-time teacher in her place. So that FTE had been removed from the staffing plan. But we are requesting to add an SLP, a speech language pathologist, to work with our asset program. Dr. Vanderpool's budget will not change. There's no increased cost to his budget for this position, but it will allow us to do the work a little bit differently. Instead of using service agreements and asking folks to do some additional hours, we'll have a full-time position dedicated to this program to support students in private schools that need those services. In addition, we have looked at our early childhood programming, and there will be some program model adjustments that will call for a reduction in the FTE for early childhood teachers. It's a 0.9 reduction in that staffing, and along with that, there will be a slight reduction in the classroom assistant FTE that goes along with that early childhood staffing. So those are the only changes that we have included in this memo that are different from the work session that we spoke about last month. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mrs. Simpkins. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Another exciting moment this evening. Board, I will entertain a motion to approve the renaming of Heritage Landing Alternative Program to Westwood Trail Academy. Motion made by Mrs. Walker, seconded by Mr. Lane. Dr. Hahn.
I was getting nervous, I couldn't see him out of the door.
He moved.
So good evening, first of all, Board of Education, Dr. Hendricks Harris, and the Executive Cabinet. Thanks for letting us be here tonight. I want to introduce a student of ours, Gina Beagle, who's going to be helping me tonight. And we're here to talk about a recommendation for a new name, new colors, and a new mascot for our school. So over the summer, if you don't know, we moved to a new physical location. And so since then, we've been trying to figure out who are we? Who's our new brand? What's our new identity? And spent a lot of time talking with students, staff, parents, community members, trying to seek some input for that. And so once the committee got together with all these different people, and we came up, we brainstormed lots of different names, and then we got it down to 3 names. And so from that point, then we were able to vote on which of the names we felt was, would best fit our needs. So Gina's gonna talk a little bit about that for us.
During our annual Thanksgiving dinner, we all had an opportunity to vote on which name we felt was the best fit for our new school. The students and staff and families were all able to cast their votes as they are all a part of the learning community. After the voting was finished, Westwood Trails Academy was the name that had the most votes and is what we would like to give approval from you for tonight. Dr. Hahn is going to talk about the meaning behind the name.
So one of the 3 words, Westwood Trail Academy. Westwood was selected to acknowledge, first of all, the westward expansion that has occurred through Missouri, as well as our new physical location located on Westwood Industrial Park Drive. Trail is to signify the journey of Lewis and Clark as they explore the area, again, as well as the path that we all take in life. It's ongoing as we continue to learn and grow. We want to promote that. And then Academic Academy was chosen to promote the learning that occurs there and to get away from what a possible negative stigma may be associated with the word alternative, as was included in the Heritage Landing Alternative Program from before. And so, as we mentioned, the name, also the colors, and the mascot. So for our colors,
The school has chosen to go with green and white as primary colors for the school. These will be used to brand the program's name, logo, and help provide a new identity. The color green was selected due to its connection to being regulated and ready to engage in learning as a part of the zones of regulation that are taught to us at school. It is a positive color, and we use it to help show we are and that we are ready to learn. Lastly, the llama has been selected as the school's mascot. The llama was chosen based on the animal's characteristics as strong, social, caring pack animals. The National Alliance of Mental Illness identifies the llama as their mascot, explaining that llamas are used to carry burdens and are very compassionate animals. Llamas understand when you're sad and they comfort you. Using that philosophy and belief, we also feel it will be a good fit for the new school, Westwood Trail Academy.
So that concludes the reasoning for Westwood Trail Academy, our colors, and our mascot. So thank you, Gina, for explaining that. Let's go ahead. Any questions?
Board, any questions?
No.
Gina, excellent presentation. You did wonderful this evening, and this is an exciting moment for us as we name this school. So thank you for joining us this evening, and thank you, Dr. Hahn.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful, blessed day.
Thank you. All right, board, we have a motion on the floor. Any questions? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Alan, it's decision time for you. We have a little bit of time left in our meeting. We move into what we call our work session. So it's not the official voting that you've seen a lot of this evening. It is a collaborative conversation and update for the board on a couple of projects that we've been working on. So tonight, we will have an update on our student behaviors, and we will discuss some agreed upon procedures and results from an audit. So why I say it's decision time is you can choose to hang with us through those two topics, or you may be finished for this evening. And I wanted to thank you for being here with us and give you an opportunity to speak.
Well, thank you very much. I'll stay.
You're gonna stay. All
I'm
right.
enjoying it.
Excellent. Glad to hear that. So normally we would join the board down here at some tables, but tonight, since we have our reception and a larger crowd, we'll do work session from here. All right. Student behaviors is going to be handed off to Dr. Hendricks Harris. Okay.
And so, we're just gonna give you an update on student behavior. This has been requested by Ms. Lang previously, but also something that we would wanna do at this point anyway. Student behavior continues to be one of the major challenges in our district. I'm gonna start by just going through current reality data, so looking at where we are in regards to data on behaviors. We've pulled a lot of different sources to provide that current reality. This first slide shows a mid-year, so these are all mid-year comparisons of in-school and out-of-school. And so typically we look at the last 5 years, so if you look back to 2015, you see there's been a 5% increase in out-of-school and 8% increase in in-school. However, during those 5 years, we have had lower times than we did 5 years ago. So if you look at from our lowest year of ISS and OSS to our current year, there's an 8% increase in OSS and an 11% in ISS. In many of the areas and the different grade levels, you might see some things being fairly flat, but again, we're looking for overall trends there, so you can see. Another data point that we have been looking at least once a year has to do with staff injuries from students, and you can see this is by month. again, through the end of December. So last year at this time, we had 18, this year we have 20. Those are significant numbers when you think of our number of staff being injured by students that require this level of intervention. It's also important to note that last year, after a full year, we were at 34. So being at 20 mid-year, we could project that we are going to be up at the end of this year as well. Something that we do across the district is we take a survey at every building. We ask the same 6 questions at least once a year. You can see that we have very high percentages on our first top 2 questions, and we're in the 80s on all of our questions. The one that has historically been the lowest has been question number 6, which addresses behavior, and that is our staff reporting that they collaborate and implement strategies to address student behavior. You can see that we are at 80% of our staff agreeing or strongly agreeing that we are collaboratively implementing strategies. However, that continues to be our lowest question on our survey. This would just be that question 6 trends over the last 5 years, and you can see that we've had some peaks and valleys. FHCA has provided us with a survey that they took of their members. They had 240 people participate in the survey. The question that they asked was comparing this school year at this time last year, would you say behavior is more of a problem, less of a problem, or the same? And you can see that 53% of participants reported that it was more of a problem, and 47% reported that it was less of a problem or the same as last year. I also wanted to bring to the board's attention that this is a national trend. So oftentimes we are day in and day out in Francis Howell. You can talk with any of our regional districts, but even nationally, it's the topic of many conversations. And so we did commission a report by EAB. They do research for us. And you can see here some national trends. This looks at district administrators, teachers, building administrators, and support staff, and their perception of the increase in frequency of disruptive behaviors in the last 3 years. If you look at the end of the chart, you can see most feel that there are more now or significantly more now. And in this slide, you can see that nationally, that number 1 is tantrums and oppositional defiance, which is what we hear as well. Our news channels here in the region have also all done specials, I believe, in the fall regarding the increase in disruptive behaviors in our classrooms. You can pick up any national journal and see the significant increase or perception of significant increase of student behaviors across the nation. I think we are most often asked why. Why do we think this is? EAB put several different items on their list of their whys. None of these are going to surprise anyone. So if you ask people why, you would hear people saying much of this time many of these things: excessive screen time, increase in substance abuse, changes in family structure. Those are things that you would hear people say. There were a couple things that surprised us a little bit when we looked at this research study. One is the effects of the Great Recession and the impact that has had on our students, and also the decrease in educational funding nationally. We have been working on some things, so before I turn it over to Dr. Hogan to talk about what we're going to do next, I wanted to share some things that we have done. So the board knows that recently we have provided an ESC, a mental health professional, to every building. We have had a big focus and many trainings on restorative trauma, sanctuary, and our new teachers are provided the 8 essential classroom practices training. We did secure a grant, and we have a PBS consultant working directly on both our leadership team as well as in some of our schools. We have shored up our suicide prevention activities. We have professional development strands for our staff. In regards to our family coordination and our family supports, last year we offered many options at our parent university. This year we changed the focus to family learning series in order to increase participation. You can see all of the different topics that have been provided to our parents over the course of this school year, and there will be more. Many of those address some of those core issues shared with us by EAB. At the elementary level, one of the things that we did this year that seems to be successful is we provide a sub 1 day a week for our teachers to come in and meet with a team to discuss the issues that they're having with students. So for someone to hear them, to hear what the issues are, as well as to do some problem solving, what can we do next, has provided some relief. People are very supportive of that particular intervention. We provided 10 behavior specialists, so one at every school. Those folks are doing a variety of things to support our students. The Inspire program, which you're familiar with, we expanded Heritage, which is no longer Heritage. I should have changed that slide, knowing that I was coming after Tony tonight. We have a kindergarten transition program, so in the summertime, we have kindergartners that attend school a little early, hopefully with some of their kindergarten teachers and in their building. It's not as much of a preventative, helping our students work through issues prior to the start of school, but it has been helpful for us to identify some students who might have issues on day one in order to plan things like class lists, as well as provide some immediate interventions on the first day of school. And then, as I mentioned, we commissioned EAB to do the report on disruptive learning at the elementary level. Some things that we have in progress right now. We are working, Dr. Garland is working to ensure that next year we have 60 minutes of recess at every grade level. The challenge there is where it's going to come from, but she has been working diligently on a plan, and beginning 2021, there will be 60 minutes of recess at every grade level. We have several schools that are PBIS, have been being trained in PBIS, have been being evaluated on PBIS. We had a great school visit this week where we saw some real strong PBIS structures. That is one of the things EAB cited in their research as something that is effective. We are going to be looking at how we might tweak that kindergarten transition. So we do offer that kindergarten program over the summer now. We might look at some changes based on the research in order to address those students who are most at risk, in addition to all of our students who are making that transition. We have some teachers at Henderson that have been doing a home visit pilot. That seems to be successful to this point, but that will be evaluated ongoing. And then one of the things EAB suggested is something called student relationship mapping. We've had several schools attempt to do that at the beginning of the school year, as well as a couple that started in the middle of the year. So just some things that we're looking at and talking about. These things aren't necessarily in the full level that we would like them to be, but they are some things that we have initiated at this point. In addition to those things, we have some doing environmental audits. So something EAB mentioned a lot was that too busy of a classroom can cause some disruptive behaviors. So where some buildings, some teachers have done some audits of their classroom. We do have sanctuary spaces for kids who need support with getting regulated at all of our schools. And some of our buildings have had a great focus on teacher self-care. And those are some things that we'll be looking at expanding moving forward. I also wanted to bring up some other issues that we hear around students with challenging behaviors. The first one being inconsistent reporting of discipline. And so I think as we have worked on things like restorative and we work more closely with our students who are dysregulated, there may have been times when the line of what we document has not been clear. So if I take Patrick out in the hall and have a conversation with him, is that an office referral? And so, there could be times when our administrators have had a very, very busy day and seen a lot of students and not everyone gets entered. So there might be some opportunities to improve consistency and understand where the line is. I think one of the things that we have talked about that we can ensure is that regardless of where you document it, if a student is losing instructional time because of behavior, it needs to be documented. So that can be the line that we can draw in the sand moving forward. We hear from staff that they don't know of or there have been no consequences. We believe at least part of that to be an issue in regards to communication. So we'll be working with our administrators that every referral will result in communication back to the staff who made the referral. There's a perception of restorative out there in regards to it being reinforcing of behavior. So students coming back from having a conference with an administrator and the perception being that the student was rewarded in the office. We are working on retraining. So in February, we will be doing some retraining of all of our administrators to make sure that we are staying with the fidelity of what the intent of restorative is. It's typical with any program that you roll out, that in the initial rollout that there are some things that aren't rolled out as intended. So we are evaluating that and we will be providing some reminders and an additional training in February. And then one of the things that we think we need to calibrate and have a better understanding of what constitutes a walkie call. So from building to building, from administrator to administrator, what we're getting called to do can be very different. So we want to just collect some data to see what are we responding to when we're having those walkie calls at the elementary. With that, I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Howell to talk about long-term plans.
All right, so now you've seen the current reality, and we all recognize that there are both anecdotally and based on our data, some concerns with behavior. So as we started out here, the academic team took all of this information and we wanted to start brainstorming what our possible solutions would look like going forward. What we wanted to avoid was just a knee-jerk reaction to just dump a bunch of support at the problem, only to just temporarily see some things help for a little while. Instead, we wanted to make sure there also was a focus of a long-term plan. So the first thing I want to talk about is really what we've identified as what should be parts of that long-term plan, and I'll talk a little bit later about how we'll build some more details into that. As Dr. Hendricks-Harris pointed out, we spent a lot of time looking at the AB research on this, and so this slide it lists 15 strategies that research would say will help to work with these student behaviors. And so I'm not going to read through all of these here, but notice they are numbered on this slide. I'm going to refer back to those numbers when I get to some future slides. But there are a lot of things that we already have in progress going on that's on this slide, but there are also some things that we don't. And so we're going to use this as our as kind of our guiding document to talk about what research says we should be putting in place. The next thing, and this is also from EAB, this takes all of those same strategies and lays out what a blueprint for getting them in place would look like. So the left-hand column is really saying this is where you should start. These are the foundational pieces you should put in place. The second column, then you build up to that, and eventually the third column. So they're not in the same order as the 15 strategies on the other page, as far as it's not 1 through 5, then 6 through 10, and so on, but these are the same strategies. So as we talk about what our first steps are, what we're looking at is within that plan, what is recommended to tackle first, combined with things that we already have in progress. So the first steps of that long-term plan, one of those is to work toward full implementation of positive behavior of the PBIS program. We do have 9 of our 10 elementary buildings that are using PBIS in some form. Some of them are using it more extensively than others. We believe it's important, and the research says, to work towards a more consistent and full fidelity approach to using PBIS. Our goal would be to start that at the elementary level to get that a stronger program in place and more consistent across all of our elementaries, and then eventually move that to middle school and then eventually to high school. So that would be one step, and again, it's gonna be a multi-year step to get there. It's not just something we're gonna say is gonna start in August and magically expect it to do that. The next one, social emotional learning, universal screener, we've got an action team within Goal 2 already working on that. Again, one of the EAB proposed things, one of the proposed actions we should put in place. And that'll help us identify kids in need of our support in a more uniform way and in a more efficient way. Additional recess time at elementary, Dr. Hendricks-Harris spoke to this a little bit. We have buildings looking this year or piloting it in some different ways. What she mentioned is we're looking at a proposal that's more consistent. Because to just say to a building, try to find some more time, it's hard to do. So we're looking at a more consistent approach and working with the committee to find ways to figure out where that time will come from and give kids more, at the elementary level, more unstructured time to get out and relieve some of their energy. The last one on this slide, she also mentioned audit of classroom environments. There's some training we can provide, and this can be a pretty quick action step on how to properly decorate rooms in a way that kids can stay regulated in that space and that the room itself and the decorations aren't contributing to students being dysregulated. Other steps, and just looking back at the research again, all of these are tied back to as well. These are other things we're already working on as recommended by EAB. Social emotional learning curriculum, again, Goal 2, along with the universal screener, is working on an entire curriculum. And not just a curriculum, we would identify that, and we would work on what's the model for how we would deliver that curriculum to students. It's too early to say what that's going to look like. It's still in research phase, but that is work that's being looked at. Trauma-informed training, that's something that we have been doing for a number of years in different levels, but we're looking at expanding that. Again, based on the research, we need to do a better job of being consistent across the district with that training. Transition program for incoming high-risk kindergartners. So this is different than just our current kindergarten success model. So this is actually intended to target incoming kindergartners who we know need some extra support. And so not to replace or just add into our current kindergarten readiness program, this would actually be something additional that would look a little different than what we currently do. Home visits, Dr. Hendricks-Harris mentioned as well. We have one building right now working through a company called HomeWorks, which is encouraging teachers to go in the evenings and meet with families. And it also brings families into the building for a community dinner and some things like that. Whether it's through Homeworks or through a program we put in place ourselves, we do know research really speaks to the value of those home visits. So looking at ways we can expand that, and then how we as a district can support that work, because we know, that's not all, sometimes you can do that work during the work day, but a lot of times it's asking people to spend their evenings, and so looking at how we can support that. The last one on this slide, social emotional learning and coping supports for teachers. So EAB also points out the importance of making sure we're supporting our teachers. Goal 3 is very much dedicated to this work, so there's an action team also talking about how we can, as a district, do a better job of providing these supports for our staff. Because we can't ask our staff to help these kids with their social emotional learning if we're not also supporting our staff with that. So these last 2 slides are all things based on research that are either already in progress or things that we felt would be good places to start to move us forward. So the idea there was, we're not going to just put Band-Aids on a short-term issue, throw extra staff at a problem and expect that to fix it in a long-term way. Provide extra money or extra, you name the resource. If we're just throwing resources at it without a long-term plan, it wouldn't really help us to ever not need those resources. So that was the long-term plan that we'd like to work towards, but we also know that that's a multi-year plan. And if we're feeling some level of crisis in some areas right now, just asking everybody to wait for a multi-year plan isn't really gonna help us get through the next couple of years. So we wanted to come back then and say, what do we recommend in the short term we can do while we're getting this long-term plan in place? So we've broken this up into the different levels. At the elementary level, we found some success when we know a building has specific needs. Members of the academic team put ourselves into the buildings, and we can offer support for the administrators, whether that's covering for them so they can take care of other needs of the building, whether it's helping respond when there's crisis calls over the walkie. Just really another set of hands in the building to help them do the work that they need to be doing when sometimes they're occupied by some of the student crisis issues that are going on. Next is to clarify how our support roles should be most effectively utilized. So we have a number of different things. Last year we added behavior support specialists. We have the Inspire program, Inspire team. We have the difference between our emotional support counselors and our school counselors, and who should you call when. And what we have found in our conversations is all of these different supports are doing great things, but not every building is utilizing them the same way, and in some cases they're not really sure how they should use them or who they should reach out to. So we definitely found a need to create a better system to help our buildings understand all these great supports, and these are great people doing this work. How can we best access their help in a way that'll help these buildings? So we really think some clarifications there will help. Dr. Hendricks-Harris also mentioned tracking walkie calls. So when our administrators, and in buildings it varies on who's getting those calls. Administrators are always part of that. Our counselors, ESCs, sometimes there's other staff involved within our special ed staff and some other people. The one thing we don't really know is we know anecdotally it's happening a lot, and it gets to be very overwhelming, and it makes it hard to do a lot of the other work you need to be doing. So what we're going to ask is that we start to track that so we can get a real sense of what is our baseline reality on this, which will help us better target how we might be able to offer some supports there. But right now, when we just anecdotally know it's a problem, we want to just be able to quantify that and really get a sense for where it's a problem, what kinds of calls are happening. Then we can start to really target some supports for that. And then identify staffing supports for behavior. So one of the things, we wanted to come forward and give this presentation tonight, and we really would have hoped to say, here are the recommendations we'd like to offer from a staffing perspective that we think could help. It felt really premature to just say, let's, again, the whole Band-Aid, let's just add some staff and it'll make it better. What we would like to do is spend a couple of months collecting some additional data and meeting with some groups and really clarifying what do we think would help. There's been brainstorming out there. What if we offered, much like we have instructional coaches, what if we were to have behavioral coaches who could be part of helping the buildings plan for PBIS, PD for behaviors within the building, as well as being part of crisis calls. That's part of our brainstorming. We also know in some buildings we have half-time administrative interns, and as much support as they can offer on the crisis calls, the other half of the day they're unavailable and doing other work and things like that. So this is all things we're considering in our minds as we brainstorm, but we don't want to bring our recommendation forward without it being based in what the data is telling us and what we really believe will help us move forward. Middle school, it's gonna look a little bit different, the needs are a little bit different than their experiences right now. At the elementary, we know a very common concern is those crisis and walkie calls that are really taking up lots of time. Looks different in our secondary buildings. One of the things we wanna do is much like the elementary, provide a budget for them to be able to have sub-coverage to have those student of concern meetings. We know that often you can identify a student in need of support earlier if you could just have time to really meet about that and develop a plan. Clarifying roles of the different supports, again, very similar to what we said for elementary. We really think helping people understand what the types of help are and how to access them. Supporting buildings to ensure the restorative processes include teacher time with students. Mary had mentioned one of the things about communication, about consequences. We also know many buildings are working to put restorative processes in place, but while the administrator may get to spend a decent chunk of time with the student working on helping them regulate and building a restorative relationship, the teacher, who also has a classroom full of students, doesn't necessarily get that time when the student returns to class. And so we really want to work to close that circle that the whole restorative process can play out. So looking at how we can best support that happening so that the teacher is part of that restorative process with the student, even though they still have a classroom full of students to continue to work with. ISAP curriculum, we know that often when students go into our in-school suspension, if they're just there as a punishment and then back to class, we really haven't done anything to help them move forward. So looking at helping that be more of a learning time too, specific to their behaviors and how that can help them understand what needs to be different going forward. Vaping deterrence, we know that vaping at the middle and high school levels has become a real problem. And so we actually have some programming that's gonna be going out this semester around vaping and how we can help deter that in our schools. And then, much like this research we saw at the elementary level, we may not be able to get the same robust research, because that was a huge project for them, but at least seeking some secondary specific research to the middle school level to help us create more specific plans. And high school recommendations look a lot like the middle school, again, looking to provide sub-coverage so they can meet about their student concerns. Clarifying the roles of the different supports. Supporting home visits, we spoke about that on another slide, but looking at how we can expand that and support it. ISAP curriculum, very similar there, and vaping deterrence. The ones at the bottom here are just specific to high school, providing an improved structure to ensure that high-risk students are better identified. So each of our buildings has a process in place that they try to use data to understand which students are in need of assistance. And that might be based on behaviors, attendance, grades, any sort of indicators that they can pull together. But right now, our buildings are individually trying to do that themselves. We're looking at how we can improve that structure, get it to be more consistent across all three high schools, and take the load off them. If we, from our level, can do that groundwork for them and then just provide them the results, that can be, they can spend more of their time meeting about kids instead of just looking at data. And that really goes into the next, the bullet point as well. And then the last piece, part of that was transition. When you get our middle school kids going to the high school, we know sometimes that there are kids in need of supports before they ever set foot in the high school. And in some cases, that conversation is happening and it's working out great, and in others it's not. So we want to help improve that structure as well. So those last two were unique to high school, but otherwise the last bullet, very similar, looking at some high school specific research from EAB. So the conclusion, we know the current reality demonstrates behavior is certainly a big need for us right now. Long-term plans, again, we wanted to have a long and a short-term way to help us get to that long-term plan. So we have a lot of proactive steps. The strategic plan, a lot of it, you can see how well it ties into much of our strategic plan work, and certainly the EAB research. And short-term plans, we very likely will include some recommended addition of staff. We just wanted that to be more targeted and based on the data. So you can expect to hear from us in a couple of months to come back with some targeted ways we think some additional staff could really help in the short term to get us to that long-term plan. So that is information we have for you tonight. Questions?
I just want to say thank you. That was extremely thorough and excellent. I have one follow-up. We mentioned the Inspire program a couple times. Can you just give me a quick rundown of,
Sure.
for those that may not know what this program is?
So the easiest thing to talk about is Inspire is one part of different supports we offer. And the idea there isn't that Inspire is going to come into a building and just hands-on help with the student behaviors. It's more of a coaching role for our staff to come in and provide strategies and help our staff understand some supports to help give them the tools to be able to work with student behaviors that they're seeing. And so, but it's not a lot of people. It's 3 staff members right now trying to work with all of our buildings across the district. So looking at how we can better leverage that is also part of this conversation.
Mr. Lane?
I applaud your use of the PBIS program. I utilized it when I was a principal in Hazelwood. I walked in the building, we initiated with 500 discipline referrals that school year, 425 students. When I retired, we had an average the last 3 years of 125. So it made a huge difference if it's implemented with fidelity. I appreciate you bringing that forward.
Mrs. Walker?
So I had the pleasure of the home visit this year because I have kids at Henderson. And so I really thought that was phenomenal. All the years I've got a sophomore in high school, we've never had a teacher over to sit at our dinner table, to check out the kids' bedrooms. I don't know where the teachers found the time to do it, to make it to every single home, but I can tell you the kids thought it was incredible. They were so excited to have their teacher in our house. So I think that will be something that's very cool moving forward if we can make that happen.
Mr. Hain?
Yeah, the one part that I was impressed with the overall program, but it was just because of all the information provided, and it's data-driven, which is what our district is and what we do. And the one question that I've always had is, are we truly getting accurate information? And it was great to see you guys address the fact that the reporting procedures and everything will be implemented with fidelity and consistency, so we'll have accurate information. So we'll have accurate data to base it on. Thank you guys for all the work you put into it.
Mr. Hain?
Alan, what's Dr. H.H. doing in the hall with the snow shovel and rock salt?
I think I'm guessing they're making a video.
All the teachers trying to make a decision. I do have a question though.
Oh, they're all cheering.
Yeah.
Yes, there might be another one.
So,
Alan, did you have a question?
yeah, I have a question. So you said providing vaping deterrence resources.
Yes.
So I know, like, I don't know how bad it is in middle school, but it's bad in high school.
Right.
Like, I think I know, like, so many people that do it. So, like, can you expand more, just, like, on it? Like, what you're gonna do to just, like, provide those deterrent resources?
Much like some of the other things we talked about, we really feel like, you know, you can talk about things, way to catch people and do some of that, but it's really more about education, helping kids really understand before you start down that road. We know that out there, people know it's not safe and all, but yet they're still doing it. And so it's really more about education and helping students understand before they ever develop that as a habit, that they know the risks and the concerns that are with it. So it's really more about the education piece. We do continue to work within our schools to help try to curb that through other efforts as well, but really focusing on that education piece.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's just, like, the kids know it's bad, but they don't know enough about it to know that they should stop, or just, like, seek help to stop, so.
And so we hope to offer more information for them in a more broad way, right? Not just they hear it from here or there, but it's really a consistent effort and a consistent message across the district.
Thank you.
I'm just curious to see about the home visits. Do you know if there's any plans on possibly expanding that through more schools?
So that would be our hope. Homeworks is one model of it, but Homeworks, there's a financial commitment from the district where Homeworks provides some money to help with stipends and the district provides some as well. Whether that's the right answer to expand it or whether we just do something ourselves to expand it, we do know that just to ask teachers to spend their evenings in people's homes is not the model, right? We need to talk about how we can support that work. So yes, absolutely a goal to expand it. Determining whether it's through Homeworks or through another model that we create ourselves is where the conversation would go next. But we know it's a big ask and we know we can't just roll it out and say, hey, please go do this. We need to talk about how to really do it in a way that works.
Excellent presentation. Any other questions? Mrs. Walker?
Was there an announcement outside?
Yes, there was an announcement. Kobe said we had to have school tomorrow, so we're having school tomorrow.
All right, board, any other questions on the presentation? All right, thank you very much. Very well done, very thorough. All right, next on our agenda for our workshop is our review of the audit procedures and results. Mr. Supple?
Thank you, Mrs. Coates. I'd like to invite Mr. Rick Grotza from KEB, our audit firm, to come forward. I'm actually going to give my seat to Mr. Grotza so that he can share with the board the results of the audit.
Thank you, Mr. Supple. Thank you, members of the Board of Education. As you know, we were engaged by the district to perform specified procedures on the district's accounting records for the year ended June 30th, 2019, and report the results of our findings. Our engagement was performed in accordance with the attestation standards established by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. The procedures that we performed primarily focused on internal control and compliance with district policies related to payroll, investments, journal entry review and computer password security, budget monitoring, travel expenses, credit card and P-card purchases, supplies expenses, including competitive bidding. So as a result of our testing, we only noted one exception. We tested 25 supplies expenses, and we found just one of those purchases only had 2 bids versus the 3 that are required by district policy. No other exceptions or deviations were noted as a result of our testing. And just like to thank Kevin and Cindy and the rest of the finance team for all their assistance and support throughout the engagement. And I would be glad to take any questions.
So I had an opportunity to scroll through everything that was tested, and so I just want to express my thanks for our internal team as well as to your team of putting some fresh eyes on a few areas in our district to just validate where we thought we were. So thank you for that. Board, do you have any questions regarding the audit findings, the processes, what was evaluated at this time? Mr. Haynes?
Yeah, you do our annual audit, and this was an additional thing that we had. Are there, and I'm sure you do this for other districts and other agencies, what other areas should we be concerned with, or should we be looking at, or what are your recommendations as far as other areas, or potential areas of concern that we should be looking at or evaluating?
Well, cash receipts, that's always an area of concern, especially decentralized cash receipts. You know, it's not a big part of the district's overall budget, but anytime you're dealing with cash, that's an opportunity. So talking gate receipts, student activities, those sorts of things, that might be an opportunity.
And then, you know, this is, you know, we kind of expanded and added on a little piece. You know, I think eventually we'd like to review the entire, you know, district in some way or another. Is that something that you would recommend be done in 1 phase, 2 phase, we do it all at once? Is this something that would be done over several years, or how is that typically done, and how would that kind of look?
Yeah, typically what I've seen or what I've experienced in the past, is it's rolled out in several phases over years. And then that internal audit program, once you've tested all the various areas and types of transactions within the district, you start that process over a number of years later. So it's a continual internal audit cycle over a period of years.
And so you're saying you would do it over several years in a number of phases, and then you
I think you
repeat that then, or?
I think you could get it done in 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you would repeat that and start back over. Because internal controls change, people that are responsible for those internal controls change, so that's why it's important to make it a continuous cycle.
Let me follow up on this question. Is there a typical scope and sequence, so to speak, that's teacher talk for? Like, we would typically look at this group of procedures and policies and then this one next, and then?
No, there really isn't, and, you know, it's really, you know, it's really focused on areas of concern that the board may have, or management may have. So the scope of this can be as broad as you really want. There is no cookie cutter approach to this, so.
So I think when we first talked about the internal audit, we did talk about a multi-phase approach. I think we can have a meeting to talk about what those next procedures to be audited would be and bring it to the board for that next phase of that regular internal audit. Unless there is a topic the board would like for us to make sure that is addressed in the next phase. Cash receipts is on the list, and we'll have conversation about additional.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I think your team can identify where we think our higher risk areas are, including cash, which makes sense. But to bring them forward an idea of what that next phase looks like, I think would be very beneficial. Board, any other questions, concerns? Okay. Happy that the findings were so well received. Excellent. All right, so we're gonna wrap up our work session, so I'm gonna turn to Alan again. So our next step is to go into superintendent comments, but before we do that, I would like to give you an opportunity to share any thoughts you may have from this evening, or anything you would like the team to know about your experience within the district.
Alright, well, first of all, I'd like to give a disclaimer that if any of you were wondering, I'm not blonde. For our soccer team and our soccer season this year, our whole team bleached our hair for districts and playoffs, and we didn't do very well, but that's so I would like to congratulate our new superintendent. I think it's super cool, and Dr. Mary Hendricks Harris. I would like to just say thank you for just all you've done for just the district and everything. I think our district is one of the best districts around, and just like going into other schools around this area with Breakdown, St. Louis, and just like seeing so many different schools, like Howell Central and Howell North are like very solid schools. So I would just like to thank everybody for everything you guys do for just the schools and everything. Like I never knew you guys had meetings like once a month about so just like all that you guys do just behind the screen, it really does pay off, and you guys really do have great schools, so just thank you guys so much. That's all I have.
Excellent, thank you very much. We are happy that you joined us this evening, and take this as an opportunity to visit our board meeting anytime you would like. All right, with that, we'll roll to superintendent comments.
Thank you. The Francis Howell School District Strategic Plan has identified two-way communications with parents and our larger community as a district priority. As part of the continuous community engagement areas efforts in Francis Howell, the Communications Department is conducting the annual communication survey and asking our stakeholders to provide input on both district and building level communication efforts. The nomination period for the Hall of Fame is now open. The award recognizes excellence of character, performance, and service of those who serve the Francis Howell School District as employees, volunteers, and patrons. Any former employee, volunteer, or resident of the Francis Howell School District, current or former, is eligible to be nominated for the Hall of Fame, and nominations will be accepted until March 6th. Francis Howell is set to begin preschool registration for the 2021 school year on January 21st. Francis Howell has a quality preschool program that provides excellent social and pre-academic experiences for our children. This programming is located in each of 3 early childhood family education centers and 2 of our elementary sites. The Francis Howell Alternative Learning Department is excited to sponsor and host the annual Community Resource Fair. The Community Resource Fair will take place on Saturday, January 18th at Francis Howell Central High School in the cafeteria from 12 to 3. Aria Pelican, a student at John Weldon, has earned the title of Top Cookie Boss. The determined 5th grader has been the top Girl Scout cookie seller in the St. Louis region for the past 2 years, and this year she has a goal of selling an impressive 4,100 boxes of cookies. With charts to track her progress and the networking skills to flourish her business, Aria is well on her way toward that goal. Lastly, I want to congratulate Dr. Hoban. In my experience with Dr. Hoban in the last 2 years, I appreciate his ability to bring a fresh perspective, to think about things differently, and to understand issues from multiple viewpoints. I can tell you from our most recent conversation how excited he is to lead an amazing district, and of course, I wish him all the luck in the world.
Okay, board, next on our agenda is any Board of Education comments or requests. Good this evening, okay. Let's take a look at our upcoming meetings. Our next meeting is February 20th. We could review the agenda. I'd like to add on there, we saw in our MSBA report tonight that the February 10th is the legislative session in attendance by MSBA members. I think we have quite a few of the board heading up for that, and we could have maybe a report out on that agenda. And board, if you could be prepared to share some information about the activity that day. Any other adjustments to that agenda? Okay, let's take a look at our March meeting, March 12th. Any adjustments to that agenda at this time? All right, board, I will entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting. Motion made by Mrs. Lang, seconded by Mrs. Walker. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for your attendance.